Yeah, I think I'm interested in what you said about like, you being one of the people from last cycle, knowing where your bags are at, and the talk of these people saying that like, oh, we have so many investors with millions left to sell. Yeah, I think that that's kind of just tired bear talk, like with the chart being as low as it is right now.
Mhm.
And people are going to. It's just we have to remember, and I heard somebody say this today, and I thought it was a great point. Like the people that are trying to onboard you at the top of green candles, like a certain alien token that's on PulseChain right now that's doing really well. A lot of people are talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
So that's happening right now. And then of course, when you're at the lows like this, people are going to try to FUD you out of your bags. And I mean,
Hmm.
seems like that's basically been happening for 3 straight years, really, because crypto has been going down mostly during that time. But yeah, you just have to decide at the end of the day, like how convicted are you? And you also brought up the point of like if you are locking up or staking Hex, same thing. Even though providing liquidity with Pulse and Pulse X right now, you can pull that at any moment. It's not like it's locked up or anything like that necessarily. But that's another thing you could do to put a barrier between yourself and like making unwise choices, kind of. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts about where we are with prices. If not, we can kind of move on to these Pulse X updates. So
Oh,
let me
yeah,
know.
yeah. Hey, what I would suggest to everybody is this: we don't have much else we can do with the Pulse price other than look at it in USD, because that's our connection to the outside world. But I would urge people to switch to the Pulse view. In other words, look at your tokens, Hex, etc. You'll see a much different viewpoint, right? With what they're valued in terms of Pulse, and it's a totally different looking chart when you look at those things. I think that's an important point to bring back to people, because a lot of folks are upset that they might have swapped into this or that. And overall, what you're looking for is an increase in Pulse price over time. Like that's a great one with if you go on Pulse, yeah. So you see how PulseX tightened that up, and now it's coming back down. And then for the people who did decide to come over and do the farming, like PulseX farming, that's fantastic, right? That it cycles through like that, because you're correcting the impermanent loss in one direction, going in the other direction, etc. And my ink farms right now, I'm very happy that I'm not losing as much ink, right? I'm actually gaining depending on what's happening. So yeah.
This
Yeah,
ink
I think.
chart
Go
is
ahead.
interesting in Pulse terms. It's really just done a whole rounded bottom and just flattened.
Mm.
I haven't really looked at this one much, but that's a quite interesting pattern. It's not doing a whole lot.
It looks better. Well, I guess it looks a little similar, but I think it looks better than the Inc versus USD chart anyway. So I guess that's kind of good. But also, and you mentioned, Crispy, about like Pulse, you don't have much choice to look at it other than against USD. I think looking at it against Ethereum is also something that we can do too. And at least we are, despite Pulse being at new USD lows, we are seeing Pulse start to gain on Ethereum now, and that's partially because we have seen Ethereum just, capitulate last month basically, but you still got to look at the chart, and it looks like it is kind of growing up.
I can agree with that a little bit. Yeah, I can see that, because I'm looking at just looking at Pulse right now. Pulse right at the moment is a buy with ETH and Bitcoin, right, because of the way that they've performed. But yeah. I mean, and that just is demonstration of how that ratio has come down or moved.
Yeah.
Well, it did have a nice little a nice little pullback. I mean, when you zoom in here on these last couple of days, it did get bought back pretty quickly after it touched that 3168 level. It actually went down a little bit, 3103, but it kind of rebounded nicely. So that's at least a positive thing to look at. I mean, I know that we're down at the very, very bottom pretty much that we have ever been, but it is good to see it find a little bit of support here.
Yeah, 100% there.
And I think too, people need to, I know it's easy to forget. We were just having a conversation and through text the other night about this, but people are afraid of catching the falling knife right now and see Pulse going down or whatever token it is they want to buy, seeing things going down. And my philosophy is, personally, again, anybody else can do whatever they want, but I mean, we are in the bull market now. And if you've ever experienced like a true bear market, like the one we just went through, that's when you really feel like you're catching a falling knife, because you are basically, I mean, it feels like death every single day, and it just keeps going lower, and you want to see a confirmation. And the fact that we're in a bull market, and there, despite some of the bearish sentiment right now, we are still in a bull market. So it makes me a lot more comfortable buying dips, because when you zoom out, I think we're going to be perfectly fine when we head into 2025. So I think people need to keep that perspective a little bit, that we are in that kind of market environment right now.
Yeah, I've been following the Mayor multiple on Pulse for a while, and when I look at the Mayor, which is a comparison to the 200-day moving average, not an exact fit for PulseChain, but it works well enough. We crossed the line into what I would call accumulation back at the end of April, and since then we just been moving around in that area. Based on the dollar, and so yeah, I would agree. We're kind of waiting to see, are we gonna see a buyback? We're gonna see accumulation. I don't think there's, from catching a falling knife perspective, if you have a long enough time frame in mind, this is probably a great time to accumulate.
Yeah, and just looking at that Pulse chart, I mean, we've been saying it for weeks since we kind of started this double bottom process. Like, this is we've been basically near all-time lows for a couple of months now. So, you zoom out and look at the chart. I've been wanting to auto buy everything, over the last couple of months. So I'm with you.